When the doubt gets loud, but answer that call. Vision ain't real till you grind at speed, so breathing deep. Then call the damn leads. Call the damn leads.
Hey, welcome back to Call the Damn Leads, the show by sales professionals for sales professionals. I'm your host, Drew B. Wilson. With more than 2 decades in sales, I've seen it, been through it, heard about it. Now I'm bringing it to you, my favorite people in the world, the sales community. So let's be honest, this is the greatest job on earth. Doesn't matter where you come from, what background, what personality type, you can make an amazing life in sales. Today's guest, no stranger to the journey. Super excited to have him join us, Mr. Ethan Dowie. How are you, brother?
Drew B, thank you so much for having me on, man. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you being here, man. I'm excited. I want to jump right in and hear your crazy sales story.
Well, we started Indigo in 2021. Just to preface this, I started with no clients, no vendors, no idea what the hell I was doing. And the only market research I had was one guy didn't make my merch well, and I thought everybody sucked after that. So I jumped in full steam ahead. I told myself, look, other people are making money from this. So can you. I quit my job. I was working at a nonprofit, quit my job. And I said, look, the number one thing I should be doing right now, if I don't know what I'm doing, is just calling people. So I just got a whole list. I started by going off of how I built this, people who have been on that show and what companies they started, called a bunch of them. I had a list of hundreds of people. I go 0 for 200. I go 0 for 300, not getting anywhere. I go 0 for 400. And then on my 496th call, I'm not kidding, I did tally it and I did have it marked up and counted and whatnot. I called the company called Zappos.com. And that call forever changed my life, my business, and my mindset around how sales work. Because not only did I get through to the buyer, that one cold call, the one call of not knowing anyone in the company, has now led to hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of merch orders from a guy who did not know what he was doing, barely knew what to say on the phone. I got to the right person. I got to a kind person and someone that wanted to help. And it just ultimately led to an amazing relationship. So that's always the one that I like telling people because I genuinely had no idea how to make merch. I didn't know how to make an embroidered hat, a t-shirt, whatever you want to call it. And I still got through, and it was kind of cool because I was able to leverage that account to not only get more clients, but also use them as a playground for learning how to make merch.
Yeah, it's the old adage of you jump off the cliff and build the plane on the way down, right? And I think there's so much to be said about the idea that picking up the phone and just making the attempt to have conversations is really we're going to use air quotes if you're not watching this on the video, but like the secret to success. You have to have conversations. You have to make the reach outs. And even if you get to 495 and you want to quit, that 496 could be the one that changes your life. So I appreciate you sharing that story because I think a lot of people hear that, but they don't understand until you've actually lived it and gone through it and been like, I'm going to keep showing up. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to do whatever it takes. You just don't have the same appreciation for it. So if you haven't done that yet, go pick up the phone and make 500 phone calls. It's going to change your life. I promise you. There's somebody out there that wants to talk to you. And so Ethan, you jump out of the cliff, you're building the plan, you're making the calls, you build this relationship with one great opportunity. How do you continue to work that into an actual sales process so that you can scale your company? Because we both know like one client isn't going to build you a bajillion-dollar business. So like, how did you take that experience and really start saying, okay, how do I duplicate this? How do I continue to do it over and over and over again?
I took everything very slow and steady because I knew ultimately I was not building from the top down. I did not have all this experience, all this money, and all of these resources at my disposal. But I looked at it as kind of the opposite. Let me figure all of this out for myself to start. Let me be the one employee. Let me be the one asset to this company, learn everything, and then start to build out different systems and processes around sales, of course, very important, but also around the business as a whole so that then I could help and bring people into the company, learn from the processes that I learned from, what to do, what not to do, and slow and steady, all of a sudden, I have someone following a process that is known to work for myself, whether it's a cold call or cold email, how to carry out a merch project. All of it now, today, 5 years later, is systematized in a good onboarding document. But at the time in 2021, when we had just started the company, the goal was just to learn a few things a week. It just was to get better and better every single day because I knew that I was light years away from where I needed to be to build a big business. And if I just learned a few things a week of how to do better that I didn't know beforehand and was able to jot it down in a quick, simple Google Doc or a PDF, that if I just kept doing that, that PDF was going to get better and better and better. And now, years later, you look back at the first one you had on paper and you say, that's where I was at. That's what I was thinking. Like, how the heck did I grow this thing? But that's really the nature of how you have to start. You start with what you got and what you know, and you just keep making it and molding it into something better.
Yeah, I love that explanation, man. It's interesting and special how when you are building something that you truly love and that you're passionate about, the depths of learning that you truly go through. Because like there's so many layers, and it feels like every time you figure one thing out, you open up the door and there's like 9 different new things that you have to figure out as you continue to get to that next level of life and business. And you know what I'd be really interested to know, being someone who's in the merch business, let's say, right? Because Call the Damn Leads is definitely a merch company. We sell dozens of hats and t-shirts and wristbands and keychains and all sorts of stuff every single week. And how do people take their business, their brand, and actually use merch as a way to grow it? Because like I know my story, but I want to know how someone who's listening to this with their own brand and their own story can really use that merch to like grow and scale up.
The most important part of this process is you have to reverse engineer it. The mistake everybody makes is that they start with the merch. They start by saying, what do I want to make? Okay, I'm making a hat. Okay, perfect. I'll make this design. And they've already failed because they're not thinking of the outcome that they want. Merch has to be used as, whether it's a sales tool or a way to build brand equity, you have to know what the outcome you ultimately want to happen is. So if I'm consulting with someone that's going to a trade show, I'm not just going to try to sell them a bunch of merch for their trade show. I'm asking them, what product are you trying to sell? What's your service that you're trying to sell? What new things do you have? Who are you trying? What type of people are you trying to gift this merch to? And when I know all of those answers, all of a sudden it becomes very clear how we can theme this merch. Then we're designing it with purpose, and the two dots kind of connect. So then if we have this highly functional high-tech pen that has a NFC chip in it that links to a website, maybe it makes sense because the person has all this content online that they want to link to. And I think that's always the mistake that people make. They build a bunch of products and just throw money at it and say, let me just make all this merch here. But they don't have that end use in mind. And when you start having that end use in mind and you really reverse engineer the process from end all the way back to beginning, it allows you to create some really cool things that are actually connecting your brand with a tangible product to the person you either want to buy or make feel good.
Thank you for sharing that. I love the depth of it, because it's just like sales, right? If you want to get someone to buy from you, you have to kind of reverse engineer, like, where are they at once they've bought and gotten the service, the product, the thing that they're looking for? And then where are they now? And what are the steps that they're going to go through, right? What is that customer journey? Where do they really start to recognize, like, hey, this is someone that I can actually trust to help me do this thing? And I appreciate what you said about, like, a lot of people just go in like, hey, I've got this really cool design idea. I'm going to put it on a shirt. I'm going to go make millions of dollars. Yes, there are some unicorns out there that have done that, but like 99% of the merch companies I've met that started that way, they didn't understand how to actually build the brand. They didn't understand what was going to influence someone to see their shirt and go like, yes, I love this. I want to rep it. I want to share it in front of the other people that I know are judging me and looking at me all crazy. And so it's fun to nerd out with you on this, because I think there's an aspect of branding and marketing that goes with sales, and what you just said about the journey and the experience that that individual is going to have with your company, that means a lot. And so I'd be curious, like, have you ever worked with a company to build out some merch and it had like a really unexpected outcome that you guys just never imagined?
All the time. And I think that's the coolest part, where like anyone who works with me knows my team and I, we are annoying with questions, and we prep people. We tell them ahead of time, like, look, just so you know, when you're working with us, you're going to get peppered with questions 24/7. But the reason why is because we need to look under the hood. Like, we need to understand everything you got going on. Yes, there are people who come to us and say, look, I just need like 500 bags. That's it. That's all I need. And we'll do it, of course, but that's never our goal. Our goal is to make the best possible products and then make them be so useful that you really see the value of merch and you're educated in why merch is helpful. So I think the reason why it happens all the time is because when we're quoting a project, we don't just say, yeah, here's your quote for 500 bags. That would be very transactional, which is really what I wanted to avoid when starting Indigo and starting this company. We like to pull at people's emotions in the sense of getting them to understand, like, yeah, you could do 500 bags, but because of what you told me before via email, what if we did this entire concept instead? What if we ran this campaign with this style merch and shipped it to this location, your influencers in Florida and New York, whatever it is? We try to always provide options so that people know, yes, we can do what you're thinking, but here's our vision for this project. And then usually it allows us to meet somewhere in the middle, which is kind of bigger than their initial vision, but maybe less than our vision for the project. So hopefully that kind of breaks down usually where we try to come in.
No, I think it does. And I want to ask another question to kind of build off of that, because let's say we are a small business and we understand that at the end of the day, we do want to grow our brand. We're excited about the idea of merch, but we're not sure, do we buy 500 bags? Do we buy 5,000 bags? How do you make sure that like the budget and the production and all of that like plays into the business owner, like seeing the value and the ROI of this merch?
Something I talk a lot about in my own content is that it will always, always, always be quality over quantity. You can't just make a ton of items and expect it to work out or expect it to help build brand equity. If you come into it thinking, okay, how do I get the most bang for my buck? Which is every small business owner should be asking that question when they're ordering merch, because it could get expensive fast if not. And when you start thinking, it really can. Like I've seen people ask for quotes before that come to us, and then when we provide them with the quote, they're like, "What? I'm not spending. What? Are you crazy?" And I'm like, "Look, it's just this is how merch works." But I've seen success from people buying one item and then marketing it in a way that it makes it seem like it's the most premium item on the planet. And the same thing for people who buy 1,000 and have the same mindset in mind. Where you lose is when you just buy a ton and not understand what to do with it.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot we can take from that from a sales perspective, right? Because if you know that you have a limited number of people that are actually going to buy these things, there's still even a limited number within there of the actual people who are going to buy. Because we always like to think our brand is bigger than what we really know, right? More people know about us. They're going to be excited about it. Or heck, maybe you even are buying something for a trade show and they're selling you on, oh, there's going to be 10,000 people there. And you're thinking like, all right, I can definitely get half of those people to come by my booth. You won't, I promise. Trade shows are very strange, and like there's a layer of not just your merch being cool, but the way that people are interacting, the energy of your booth attendees and the people working it. And so like when you're working with these brands and you're trying to help them understand like the nuances of it, I would have to guess part of what you do is the actual like design and build out and helping people be able to create quality merch versus just selling a bunch of it. Is that pretty fair to say?
Yeah, like I kind of look at it as, yes, we're a company that makes all types of branded merchandise. I mean, any item that you can envision is something that we can make through our factory ties, but we're also like merch consultants in a way too. And again, I never want to be looked at as a company that is so transactional that we leave people hanging out to dry. And I think a perfect example of that, because you brought up the trade shows, is we would have people a lot of times saying, hey, there's going to be 50,000 people at this trade show. We need a lot of merch. And yeah, of course, we want to make a lot of merch and produce that type of a project. But I always tell them too, with trade shows, you got to get people to your booth. If you just have stuff sitting there in bowls, that's not that exciting. So I always think, all right, what interactive activity could we have going on at this booth that's going to bring people in? Is it sporting related? Maybe we design a custom basketball hoop that's in your booth and a basketball and a free throw line, and anyone who sinks 10 in a row gets a certain item handout. If you sink 5 in a row, you get another item, and so on and so forth. And it's little details like that that I don't feel like people are thinking of enough. And not only can it save you tons of money, it also kind of puts your brand out into the world in a different way that then it will attract new people that normally wouldn't see your stuff.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. I think the interactivity of it is key because I've worked a lot of trade shows over the years when I sold insurance, man, and like that's not a super sexy product. So people walking by the booth are like, "Oh man!" As soon as I walk up there, they're gonna try to sell me some stuff. But I remember when we started getting more creative and created more of like a, "Hey, if you make this shot, we'll give you, you know, a $10 gift card to wherever." Like, yes, there's a cost per lead there, if you will, but the interactivity when we followed up with them later on was something that they appreciated. It wasn't like, oh, I put my name in a fishbowl to win a thing, and now you're trying to call and sell me some shit. It was like, oh no, man, I remember when you were shooting and you made like 3 in a row, and it was that fourth one was almost there, but man, it just bounced right out, and you know, we still hooked you up with that thing because we appreciated you being a part of it. And so, like, tell me more. You know, you get to have that relationship from the experience, and the merch is just one little reminder. That's why I love Call the Damn Leads, because it's like people see it on their desk, they see it, you know, sitting somewhere, and they're like, all right, I got to go do the thing, right? It's that mutual shared experience. And so what I'd be curious about as well, because, you know, AI is taking over right now. And there's a lot of people out there that are thinking, hey, how can I use AI to build my brand? Can I have it create my logos? Can I have it build this stuff for me? What's been your experience with using the AI, and how do you make sure that the experience of your clients is done well with it as also?
I feel that as an industry, the merch business is very, very manual. Like there's ways to automate some stuff, but there's a lot of possible mistakes that can happen per project. If we have a large scale event, we can make a mistake. One missed email could lead to the entire project being messed up. And I start with that because where AI is right now, you can't just offload an entire merch project on it and expect it to all run swimmingly. I say that at this stage and for the next couple of years, it is really purely ideation. And that's where we've been able, as at Indigo, have been able to use it the most, of just coming up with creative ways to do what we're planning to do, but differently. Ways to elevate the vision that we have for a project and bring it to the next level, and ways to make fewer mistakes. My whole team is trained up on AI. Everybody has their own ChatGPT Plus account. And I feel that that is the bare minimum of the days that we're in. If people aren't doing that, you're being left in the Stone Ages. And that's really what I tell my entire team, that we need to learn this and quickly, because the second that it gets past ideation, we need to know about it first. We need to know how to take an AI agent or whatever, or ChatGPT, whatever you want to call it, and allow them to communicate back and forth with the client and take their project from start to finish. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but the second it does, my whole team and I will both be updated on it so that we know how we can leverage it to produce better merchandise and more accurate merchandise too.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. I'm very much of the same idea, and it's great for creation, right? Content ideas and creating stuff that normally if you sat down to do it yourself would take forever. But I do not believe that AI will ever replace quality, high-touch, service-based business individuals, right? Those folks that ain't afraid to pick up the phone and call the damn leads or actually have those nuanced conversations, because what you do is special. And I love the example of, hey, one missed email could cause an entire project to be wrong, because that is the stuff that can get missed with AI, because it's not perfect. It doesn't know every single conversation. Just because it says that it's going to go and read all of your emails, it doesn't always do it correctly. And so I appreciate that. And so I'd be curious, like, you've worked with some pretty big clients. How have you made sure to impart upon your team the importance of that service-based sales mentality? Because I think as you're growing and scaling a team, a lot of, we'll quote, air quote again, salespeople are kind of like, I got to sell, I got to sell, I got to sell. But I know in your business especially, it's very much about the relationship. So how do you make sure everybody's on the same page there?
Yeah, that last night you just said is so important too, because I always frame it to my employees and also our clients as well, is I'm not looking to make a quick buck on one project. Like, that's not in our best interest. Like, it's not, that's why we always have to keep our clients in mind and do what's in their best interest, because we win when we have a 10-year relationship with a client that we know everything about them. We know their kids' names, their wife's names, their husband's names, and we know about their life so that they trust that we are going to handle any merch project that comes our way from them. We don't just win off of one project. We never do. And I think the biggest thing that I always tell my team, and we have a ton of rules in place, but it's always to try to advance the position. So if we're starting an email, we're always going to start positive. If I ever see an email from my team and it's not starting positive, whether it's saying, I hope you're well, anything like that, then I'm annoyed. And I think little things like that just always show we're trying to think of the people we sell to, and we're always trying to move past where we were at previously in the relationship and just keep taking it to the next level. I feel like people see that. And when people see that, they appreciate it, they respect it, and they know that if they do this well, they can probably handle what they sell well, merch. And I just feel like it's brought us to new levels of just everyone has in their minds, oh, I have to do a good job on this account every single time. I can never be slacking. I can never be lacking, because then we're moving backwards. And I feel like if you can instill that in your team early on, it really leads to great areas, because then they start doing things that you're not even aware of that advances the position that you wouldn't have even told them to do. And it just starts to create a really creative environment.
Yeah, I love that. I love the idea of creativity in a way that continues to move the needle forward for everyone involved. That's the beauty of building something that you're passionate about, that you truly believe can make a massive impact on the industry that you're in. And I know that's a big thing for you, is like, how do we change the game in the industry? How do we make sure that this is, Indigo is the place to be to learn how this works? And so I'd be curious, because I know we're short on time. Let's say someone has a brand, they're starting to get into the merch game. Like, what's one thing they can do today, tomorrow, to really start making that merch, experience really just unforgettable?
I always feel like, and I guess it definitely depends on your business, but just one example that I really have talked a lot about in my content, the low-hanging fruit for a lot of companies, whether it's a service business, a merch business, whatever it is, product-based, I would always have a thank you program designed into what you sell. So if you're a service business and you cut people's grass, for example, anytime you cut someone's lawn for the first time, I would have an initial gift for them. And I feel like starting there is a great way to see the value of tangible merchandise and what it can bring. It could be 100 pieces of chocolate that branded with your logo. If you're mailing that to someone, or if you're dropping that off at the next appointment and you tell them like, hey, this is our gift to you, thank you so much for trusting us with this project. I mean, it levels you up in so many ways, because it shows your appreciation. So that's one thing that I think anybody could bake in. But if you're talking, someone who gets by selling physical merchandise, I would put quality above everything else. Don't make a crappy product because you are trying to sell it for a certain price point. I think the opposite of, how do we make something great that when people try on and when they wear it, they say, dang, like, this is freaking awesome. Anytime I have that experience, that brand is in the back of my mind. And I think a lot of people would agree with me there, versus just selling cheap stuff for the sake of being the lowest price. That never wins. It never will win. And maybe people get by with it, but I think if they made that switch, it would really work wonders in their company.
Listen, Ethan, this has been amazing, and I'm sure we could continue this conversation for many, many hours and just have a ton of fun with it. But I want to be respectful of your time. How do our listeners come find you, follow you, check out more of your content? Because it sounds like you're, sharing quite a bit of great information with the world. How do we do that, man?
Yeah, I'm mainly on Instagram and LinkedIn. Everyone can follow me at Ethan Dowie. And as you can tell, I love talking merch and love talking to people who are trying to build merch programs in. If anybody messages me merch, I can definitely hop on for a quick 20-minute consultation just to see where their brand is at and see kind of what they're envisioning for their merchandise. So give me a follow at Ethan Dowie, and then we can definitely take that conversation from there.
I really appreciate you taking some time to share with us today, man. It means a lot.
Thank you for having me on, Drewby. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Listen, you guys know what to do. If you enjoyed the show, share it on social media, right? Tag us. Let us know you spent some time here. You got some value out of the conversation. Maybe even, I don't know, maybe you know somebody that has a bunch of really shitty merch. And as much as you want to support them, you don't like wearing the t-shirt because it's cut crooked or like it just never fits right. Send this to them. Let them know, like, hey, man, this episode is really good. I think you'll get some value out of it. You don't got to tell them their merch sucks. Like, don't do that. But tell them they're going to get some value out of the show. Leave us a review. Subscribe to other episodes. You guys know, man, I love doing what I do here. I love sharing these stories, which tells me if you have a story, head over to callthedamnleads.com. Check out the podcast section. Get yourself signed up to be on the show. We would absolutely love to share your story out there and just let the world know there's a life for you in sales, no matter where you come from, what background, what personality. So from here, there's number one thing you need to do. Go pick up the phone, call the damn leads. We'll see you guys next time. Later.
When the doubt gets loud, but answer that call. Vision ain't real till you grind that speed, so breathing deep. Then call the damn leads. Call the damn leads.